Glover Hall had been a solid cube of limestone and lecture room since 1892. But in the autumn semester of my junior year, Professor Adrian Morrow managed to make it feel like an airlock to stranger worlds. On the first day of his seminar, Cognitive Philosophy 371, he brought no syllabus, only a white taper candle and a mason jar of tap water he claimed was from the future. We, 21 students already intoxicated by campus myths, watched him arrange those mundane props on the wide oak desk. He didn't introduce the course objectives or canvass our majors. Instead, he said, reality depends on the quorum of imaginations inside it. Let's see how large a quorum this room can become. He called the exercise sympathetic ontogenesis, a term he admitted he coined on the shuttle from the faculty lot. The premise was disarmingly simple. If a critical mass of people held the identical, detailed mental image for a sustained period, the probability of that image crossing into shared physical reality increased. It was, he insisted, neither magic nor religion, but a participatory loophole in quantum indeterminacy. Think of existence as a committee, he said, lighting the candle. When the vote is unanimous, the motion carries. Most of the universe is lazy. So if we vote together, the universe shrugs and lets us have our way. To test us, he proposed a target, a red door that did not yet exist in the sub-basement of the Hawthorne Library. He described it down to the brass knobs scored by fingernails and the faint smell of creosote baked into its panels. Picture it, he urged, pacing. The grainy paint, the light flaking near the hinges, the hollow thump it makes when you rap your knuckles. We closed our eyes. Some smirked, others scribbled sketches to anchor the picture. After 5 minutes, he clapped. Visit the basement tonight, he said. If we cared enough, you will find evidence. I went out of curiosity, trailing my roommate Jess through the book stacks and down the off-limit stairwell where the university stored broken microfiche machines. The concrete corridor ended at a seamless wall, but sprayed across that wall in fresh crimson paint was the outline of a door exactly the height the professor had specified, complete with knob and hinges. Someone, Jess whispered, must have planted it. Probably Morrow himself. Yet between the outline and the floor lay a scatter of red flakes that, when I touched them, smeared like weathered paint chips, not aerosol. Jess shivered. I watched him the whole lecture. He never texted anyone. Word of the red door bloomed across campus faster than last winter's flu. Copy-edited photos appeared on the student subreddit. The administration scrubbed away the paint by morning, complaining about vandalism, but faint indentations of a frame remained in the cement, as though the wall had once truly housed a doorway and had been carelessly bricked over decades ago. The next seminar met us buzzing like cicadas. Morrow only smiled. Proof of concept, he said. Now the precautions. Imagination is neutral. What you load into it decides the outcome. Be ethical. The warning sounded sincere, but the room heard only possibility. Within a week, prank culture mutated. A sophomore named Chen suggested imagining all campus squirrels bright blue. Students formed impromptu covens on the lawns, chanting color codes from art design textbooks. 3 days later, a groundskeeper snapped a photo of a cerulean specimen nibbling a churro. That was easy to dismiss as dye. But when the cheer squad's 20-foot banner unfurled itself mid-practice and tied into a perfect Windsor knot, phones recorded it from 5 angles. Morrow refused interviews. Collective placebo, he told the student paper. People see what they expect. Yet in class he assigned reflective essays on responsibility under ontogenic conditions. The pranks intensified. Someone envisioned the statue of founder Horace Evelyn winking at midnight. Campus police received 19 frantic calls describing an animated bronze eyelid. Another group decided Tuesdays would henceforth smell of cinnamon rolls everywhere outdoors. Come Tuesday, even the dumpsters behind the chem building breathed sugary warmth. The administration investigated fog machines, secret piping, found nothing. They threatened disciplinary hearings, but lacked a policy against unauthorized consensus hallucinations. I kept a journal. Date, phenomenon, witnesses. At first, the entries amused me. Then the tone shifted after the dandelion fountain incident. A fraternity pledged to imagine the fountain spouting craft beer during a party weekend. Hundreds gathered, cups ready. The water darkened, fizzed, and foamed an amber head. Ecstatic, students drank. 10 were hospitalized with acute ethanol poisoning. 1 aspirated and spent 2 days on a ventilator. Toxicology showed a typical Pilsner profile, no contaminants. Campus vendors had perfect inventories, not a keg unaccounted for. "We didn't distribute alcohol," the fraternity's lawyer said. "We thought." The administration suspended 3 culprits anyway, but rumors persuaded half the student body that the suspended men were scapegoats. Professor Morrow held an emergency seminar. Candle unlit, lights bright. He looked older than 6 weeks earlier. "The human mind most easily conjures mischief," he told us. "You must resist escalation." Somebody in the back muttered that adults always said that after teens discovered fireworks. Morrow slammed a book. "Fireworks don't rewrite local physics," he snapped. "Listen, the further you push, the weaker the membrane grows. There is no guarantee it snaps back." He assigned a moratorium. No more group visualizations for a month. He could assign, but couldn't police the campus. A shadow parliament of imagination cells emerged, communicating by cryptic flyers. Red triangles for meeting location, purple circles for the chosen target. 2 factions in particular gained notoriety. The Jubilee Circle wanted whimsy, floating soap bubbles made of glass, staircases that sang barbershop harmonies, that sort of thing. The Iron Quorum treated the ability as tactical. They specialized in humiliation. A dean's toupee flew off and flapped like a raven. Rival athletes found their shoelaces fusing together mid-sprint. Nobody could prove authorship, but everyone guessed. My roommate Jess joined Jubilee. I tried to stay out, keeping only my journal, but she insisted the positive pranksters needed sober observers. Their next agenda item was, by her report, harmless and pretty. They would imagine the quad's ancient elms bearing lantern-shaped fruit that glowed at dusk. Jess came home giddy, saying dozens visualized the fruit in overlapping shifts to maintain continuity. At 6:42 p.m., I set my notebook on a windowsill and watched pink light swell among the branches like ripening moons. Students wandered underneath, phones aloft. Apt enough, it was not dangerous. The Iron Quorum struck back the same night. They'd apparently decided the lanterns were childish and that the campus needed a reminder who set the rules. Their maneuver centered on the old elevator in Dalton Hall. Doors opened, students stepped inside, and as the car descended, the interior walls, slowly covered with projected newspaper clippings of each passenger's most embarrassing social media posts, some doctored with hateful quotes. The passengers emerged in tears or fury, some vomiting from panic. What rattled everyone was how the elevator knew who was inside. The text changed per occupant. Morrow attempted to ban quorum activity through an official letter, but without evidence of physical tampering. Facilities management shrugged. 3 days later came the first death. A freshman named Alfonso Torres belonged to neither faction. He was simply studying in the engineering computer lab at 2 a.m. Witnesses said he rose, walked calmly outside, and stepped into the ornamental koi pond behind the lab. The water, hardly 3 feet deep, turned ink black, and Torres vanished. Campus divers dredged mud until dawn, but found only his laptop bag and, inexplicably, a stone gargoyle sinker that matched none on campus. Closed-circuit video captured a ripple like a mouth closing the moment Alfonso touched the surface. Rumors claimed the Iron Quorum, angry that engineering students mocked them online, had envisioned a bottomless pond. Nobody confessed, but their symbols disappeared from flyers. Jubilee shut down all meetings in mourning. Professor Morrow stopped lecturing on Tuesdays and Thursdays, dedicating the periods to crisis mediation. "Think in ones, not crowds," he begged. "Isolate your thoughts from the hive." Yet phones kept pinging with new footage. Sparrows freezing midair like taxidermy. Puddles boiling on cloudless afternoons. Cafeteria trays rearranging into Ouija boards that spelled student names. Each anomaly widened the split between terror and thrill until it felt like living in a carnival whose rides lost bolts hourly but still offered free tickets. I could no longer remain neutral. I visited Morrow's office, journal under arm, and proposed a containment protocol. Gather every willing student and collectively imagine a barrier, an iron dome sealing campus from extra-imaginal intrusions. A positive use, I argued, might dampen the spiral. Morrow hesitated. It's still a collective act, he said, fingers steepled. But perhaps a vaccine must resemble the pathogen. He sent me to draft guidelines. No loopholes, no hidden pranks. Explicit sunset clause. We arranged a convocation on the football field for a Sunday twilight. Administration provided floodlights, skeptical yet desperate. Flyers framed it as a quieting. Attendees were instructed to bring nothing shiny or symbolic, only themselves. Roughly 800 showed. Some students, distrustful, watched from dorm balconies. I took the portable mic beside Morrow. Picture a hollow sphere, I told the crowd. Steel, nickel, cobalt, an alloy immune to our whims. It hovers exactly at the property lines, rooted a mile deep, stretching a mile above. Inside, only consensual reality approved by every resident persists. Outside, business as usual. We hold it for 10 minutes, then let go. Simple. We began. Eyes closed, breaths synchronized. The grass smelled of clover and concession stand sugar. My mind traced rivets along the sphere, cool and silent. Seconds lengthened. Then, distant at first, I sensed other images elbowing in. Fireworks, giant pizza slices, a thunder lizard. The quorum had sent saboteurs. Morrow's face blanched. He whispered, "Maintain focus." A bass rumble tickled our souls. The stadium lights flickered crimson, then back to white. Somebody screamed near the 50-yard line where the turf had caved, revealing red door panels rising like a submarine hatch. The same hue as our first experiment. Students scattered. The hatch burst open. A wind smelling of creosote howled upward. Out of the door leapt a figure made of welded elevator mirrors, its polished facets reflecting 800 miniatures of our panic. With every shout it grew bulkier, fed by fear. This was not random. It was an anti-arc, a vessel of retaliatory imagination stitched from every prank, accident, and whispered nightmare over the semester. Iron quorum signatures glowed along its torso like graffiti. We vote real. Morrow grabbed the mic, voice cracking the PA. Do not acknowledge it. But phones were already raised, screens capturing, broadcasting, multiplying the consensus. The mirror man lumbered toward the bleachers. Metal feet sank into concrete like dough. A row of seats folded, launching bodies skyward. One landed limp on the track. Sirens wailed from College Avenue, but the squad cars screeched to a halt as though repelled by an invisible curtain. The partial dome, awakened yet twisted, preventing outside help. Jess, eyes wet, tugged my sleeve. "Reverse it," she pleaded. "Use the journal." I flipped pages, heart drumming. My notes described every phenomenon down to its ignition phrase. Perhaps if I anchored the originals, I could de-resolve them. I climbed onto a bench and yelled descriptions backward. Lantern fruit disappears, elevator walls blank, squirrels brown again. Nothing. The mirror man only mirrored my desperation larger. Morrow stumbled beside me, candle from day one clutched like a relic. "Focus on zero," he whispered. "Imagine emptiness, vacuum." He struck a match. Tiny flame wavered. Around us, a few students closed eyes, seized the idea, space devoid of color, smell, object. I joined, picturing absolute black static. My fear drained into that void like sand through a funnel. The roar softened. I peeked. The mirror man's outline pixelated, edges misaligning as if the universe's rendering engine skipped frames. But new screams refilled him. Elsewhere, students shouted about falling bleachers, and each shout fed his pixels bolder. Jess sprinted to midfield, arms wide, and sang. Her voice, husky from too many coffeehouse open mics, carried a lullaby her mother used for childhood fevers. The tune floated simple, wordless. People listened. Listening meant no imaging, only receiving. The stadium hush spread. Even sirens faded distant. When the silence peaked, the candle's flame leapt taller, blew sideways, and puffed out. Darkness swelled, then cleared. The red hatch, the mirror man, cracked like sugar glass and scattered into nothing more dramatic than drizzle. The ground settled. An ambulance finally crossed the invisible line, lights strobing plain old reality. 4 students were injured, one critically with a spinal fracture, but alive. The administration ended the semester on the spot, sending everyone home under the guise of infrastructure safety audits. The local press blamed mass hysteria and structural failures. Professor Morrow resigned. Rumor said he entered a silent retreat in the Mojave where nobody could share mental pictures. Jess withdrew for the spring term, citing anxiety. My journal went to a locked drawer in the ethics committee's archive, stamped confidential. Summer arrived bland and textbook normal. No blue squirrels, no cinnamon air. Alumni weekend photos showed the green quad unmarred. Yet on nights when humidity halos the lampposts, I sometimes catch a whiff of creosote near Hawthorne Library's sub-basement exit. The wall is seamless polished concrete, inspectors swear. Still, I quicken my pace. Because I know collective imagination doesn't die. It hibernates, waiting for a new quorum to convene behind some professor's bright idea of extra credit. Whenever a first year asks why cognitive philosophy was removed from the catalog, I tell them to love their daydreams the way hikers love fire, admire the flame, but keep water handy, and never, ever let the whole forest share the same match.